So I was sued for $15,000, and in this video, I'm gonna share the majority of the story. I'm gonna share what's relevant to the lessons that I think should come out of it for you as an entrepreneur. And I'm gonna try to sort of give you the cliff notes so that I don't like kind of drag this on, all right? Now, I wanna start off by saying this, okay? I wanna start off by saying this. $15,000 is not a lot to be like sued for, okay? I believe that this experience was just like, hey, I wanna give you a taste of what the process looks like, just so that you could prepare yourself to avoid like a larger liability. Okay, so when people think of like getting sued, most people would think that like what you're being sued for is directly associated with like a direct loss, right? Like so, like let's say somebody took my laptop and threw it on the ground, right? Somebody took my laptop and threw it on the ground. So they broke my laptop, and then let's say I didn't buy another one, and for 3 months, I'm like, I don't have the ability to like generate income. That when someone thinks about, you know, what the loss is, you could say, well, all he lost was his laptop, but that's not true. I also lost the major or the main instrument that I use to generate income. So the generating income is part of my damages. It's a derivative of what it is that you did to me, right? Same thing goes for, like defamation. Like let's say somebody went on social media and said, hey, Mike is a fraud, right? If I have evidence that I lost revenue because of those claims, then now all of a sudden, again, I have damages, right? So when people get sued, a lot of times, like you're getting sued not just for the direct loss, but also for the derived losses as well, all right? I'm not an attorney, so I'm not gonna speak on this. You can talk to an attorney about all of the mechanics there, all right? So 15 grand is not a lot of money to get sued for. There was actually an instance that I got into years ago that, we didn't get all the way to court because my insurance kind of remedied everything. Like they took care of everything before everything went to court. But this one was a bit more direct, right? So first big lesson here is, as a business owner, it really does, when you're starting to serve people and you're serving their business and all that, it does open you up to like risk, okay? So that's the first lesson. Just know this, you're not just doing business, you're opening yourself up a bit. If you're a barber and you're cutting someone's hair, and let's say you mess up their hair, but they also had a major photo shoot and they had a brand deal and all this stuff associated, that's a lot of risk there, right? It's not just that $100 haircut at that point. It's the fact that you're opening yourself up. When you're doing services, you're opening yourself up. First big lesson. Second big lesson is, in business, have insurance, okay? I'm a fan of Hiscox, which is a funny name for an insurance company, right? But Hiscox is a good business insurance. There's hundreds of them. Find one, make sure you have enough coverage so that in the event that something happens, you could at least have some protection there, okay? So business insurance, just know that you're definitely opening yourself up. So I'm gonna compress this down to as short of a story as possible. I know I'm already 4 minutes in, but sorry. Years ago, when I first started out in business, it was me and my business partner. We were primarily in the digital asset development space, which is creating websites, doing campaigns and stuff like that, right? Primarily building websites. So I got involved in this organization and I met this older lady. That's gonna be relevant in a moment. At the time, this was the year 2015. I was hunting for clients. Like I was taking everything. I was a gator. I was taking scraps. Like, hey, you got $500? All right, I'll do something for you. Taking everything. Met this older lady. She did like medical literature. Like she wrote medical literature and stuff like that. She didn't really get clients online because she wasn't really big online. I'll bring that up again. That's relevant in a moment. But built out her website. She didn't really have too much to put on there, so I went above and beyond for this woman, right? I was like, oh, meet me downtown, because my office was downtown at the time. I'll take some photos of you, and I'll do this, and I'll do that, and I'll everything that you have is physical. I'll scan that for you. I was bending my back to do all this work for her, right? Built out her website. She loved it. Okay, she didn't pay me a ton for it. There's a lot of stuff she didn't pay for, that I did. But again, that was the season that I was in where I was like, let me over deliver. Third lesson here: focus on what you agreed to first, and everything extra, make sure they're aware of it and have it documented. What I do whenever I over deliver now for anything, I send zeroed out invoices. If I'm doing you a favor for something, I'm sending you a zeroed out invoice, so you are aware that I did this and the value of it was a certain amount, right? Having that stuff documented shows that there's some type of paper trail to what it is that you scoped relative to what it is that you did, and what you're willing to do. Okay, so don't just over deliver for people. Make sure you have everything in writing, because that's very important. All right. Now, I would say part of that, there was a lot of moot points with this, because everything came down to one thing, and I'll tell you what that is in a moment. Okay. So essentially what happened was, first year, she paid for the renewal of her hosting. Whenever you build a website, you have to pay for hosting. I took on the hosting. I had a system that I was using to send out automated invoices. And so invoices were being sent to her. First year, she paid it. Second year, she paid it. And in the third year, she didn't pay it. Fourth year, she didn't pay it. So she stopped paying. So I don't normally turn people's website off immediately after like they stop paying. I kind of let it ride. And so I let hers ride for a number of years. I figured, well, hey, like maybe she just stopped doing business. There's a lot of people that have asked me to build websites, built them a website, and then like after some months, they just stopped doing their business, right? Which is one of the reasons why I got into business coaching and sales coaching, because I love helping people with creating businesses that are sustaining, right? Besides the point. So she basically stopped paying. But one thing that I did that it brings forth another lesson is I switched the system that I used to send out automated invoices. Okay. So I switched the system, and that's going to be relevant in a moment here. All right. So she stopped paying, and I said, hey, this was like I forgot what year it was, 2019. I decided to upgrade my servers. So at the time of upgrading my servers, I looked at everybody that was current, and I was like, all right, everybody, I'm migrating all of their websites over to the new server. Her website was on the list of websites that it wasn't paid for years. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not gonna migrate that. So I didn't migrate it. So one day she goes out to a conference, and she's speaking with one of her friends or whatever, and she's handing out business cards, and someone goes, hey, like your website's down. So at that point, she hits me up and she goes, hey, my website's down. What happened? And I was like, oh, well, I didn't even know you were still doing anything. You haven't paid your invoices in the past 2-3 years. And, but what I'll do for you, I'll take all of the content that we kind of work through, and I'll put that into a new website. So that's exactly what I did. I took her content and I put it into a newer template, which in my opinion looked better. She didn't like the newer website. So, we kind of went back and forth, and then I said, you know what, this is not worth my time. Because again, this is years later, and I'm doing this for free for you. I was like, you know what, this is not worth my time. I'm going to start ignoring you. That leads to another lesson. In business, don't just walk away from things. Don't ignore things. Make sure you finalize everything. It could be a finalization email. It could be a letter. It could be something. Make sure you finalize everything, because sometimes this stuff can come back to bite you. All right. So she basically, at that point, she didn't like the website. So she went and found somebody else to rebuild the website. So she paid them. And then at the same time, she created a certified letter and sent it to me and said, hey, I would like for you to remit $15,000 to me in damages for my website being down. Now, hear me out here, okay? This is the crazy part. There's so much stuff going on with this situation, right? First of all, you didn't even realize that your website was down until one of your friends told you, which was years after your website actually came down. So you weren't even checking your website. That means also too that you didn't see any decrease in your revenue because the website was down. So you weren't even attributing revenue to your website because you didn't even know it was down. So if you were really operating your business, you would know whether or not something's working, right? Something's not working. All of this, mind you, was put into, all of the notes associated with the case, because a lot of that's relevant when you are arguing whether or not something is attributing to damages, right? So she was like, hey, give me 15 grand. And I totally ignored it. So a couple months after that, I was served, like officially served, to say, hey, you're being sued, like you're being formally sued for 8K. So she's smart. What she did was she went from 15 grand to 8K because, and every state is different. In Florida, like at $8,000, that's when you're able to take something to small claims court. The amount of evidence that you have to go through to be able to get something through small claims court is very different than like above 8K, right? Above 8K, there's a lot of stuff that you have to go through to be able to prove and go to and to litigate. Under 8K, it's a lot easier, right? So she took me to small claims court, and we went through the whole thing, right? Now, let me back up for a moment. One of the lessons when it comes to systems that you're using, if you are switching systems, make sure that you retain as much documentation or records as possible, because you don't know when you would need it, okay? The thing about when you're using systems is that, like, if you're using a particular software system right now, at the moment, you're essentially renting that system from them, right? You're renting that software platform from them. If there are certain things that you need to retain forever or in perpetuity, if you were to leave that system, you sort of lose it unless you export it, right? Or you download it. Make sure that you retain, if you choose to leave a system, make sure that you retain all of those records. So that's another lesson, right? So we get to the whole, like, the first part of this process, which is to go to mediation. Mediation is that step where you try to work with a mediator so that something does not go to court, okay? What they're trying to do is they're trying to get things resolved as fast as possible, or as effectively as possible before it has to go in front of a magistrate or a judge, okay? When I went to the mediator, I was steadfast. No, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm fighting this. This is ridiculous. I was steadfast, and I was like, no, I want to take this to court, because there's absolutely no way that I'm gonna lose a case like this, or there's no way that I'm gonna there's no way this couldn't work out in my favor. Another lesson: don't ever think that. Don't think like that, okay? It's the wrong way to think, because you don't know how certain things can play out unless you invest a lot into, legal counsel and stuff like that. So, good legal counsel can provide you with a certain level of expectations and prediction on whether or not something can go in your favor. Okay, so we get into mediation. I'm like, no, let's go. No, I'm not meeting in the middle. Let's go. We get in front of the magistrate and looks at all of the evidence. Mind you, there's so much stuff that I would think was in my favor, right? So much stuff that would be in my favor. You want to know what everything came down to? Everything came down to one thing. And that one thing was, Mike, do you have evidence that you sent her an email for that for that invoice stating that her website was going to be coming down if she doesn't pay it? If you're not able to furnish that email or evidence of that email, then I have to agree with the fact that she wouldn't know that she would be losing a website because an invoice wasn't paid. It doesn't matter that this is it doesn't matter that this is common sense. Can you furnish this? And you want to know something? Going all the way back to that system that I switched from, I was not able to furnish that because I canceled my subscription with that system. So I wasn't able to furnish that. So that portion of what was being fought, she got a point there. All right. Now the rest of what she was fighting for was damages or whatever. Like, oh my gosh, I lost revenue. She provided a 1099 as like her evidence that, oh yeah, look, my income dropped from this to this. That's not evidence. Like, you can't say, oh, my income dropped, or my 1099 for my business dropped, so I'm gonna say that it's because of the website. That's not real evidence. Now, in a better case, if you were to say, hey, you know what, on average, I'm generating this amount of revenue, and I'm generating this amount of revenue because this number of leads are being generated from this campaign, and the leads are being generated from the website, and out of those leads, I'm contacting 50% of them. Out of 50% of them, 10% of them I'm actually converting, and that's equating to this amount of revenue. Because my website was down, or because this was broken, that inhibited my ability to generate leads, and that also inhibited my ability to open new opportunities so that I can start generating revenue. If you don't have that pipeline evidence, then you can't say that you lost revenue because a website was down. So the magistrate was like, well, yeah, I can't prove that you lost revenue because of a website, right? So everything actually came down to, all right, well, Mike, look, she lost the website. That's all she can prove she lost. So whatever she paid to get the website made originally, that's what I want you to give her back. So like, all right, cool, whatever. So so it didn't work out. It didn't turn out that bad, right? It wasn't bad. Now the reason I wanted to record this video is because, again, in business, you really have to realize that it's not just about doing services and doing stuff. You are opening yourself up. That's how I started this video. One, make sure you're protected. Get business insurance. Make sure you're protecting what you're considering to be an asset. Make sure you're protecting something that you're considering to be very valuable. That's first big point. Second big thing here is that like, this could have been way worse, right? Like, you know, like you could be doing something, you could be rendering a service that could have a lot more derived damages, okay? And that's one of the reasons why having insurance is important. Again, getting sued for $15,000, that's not a lot of money. That is not a lot, okay? Especially once you start to calculate what could be derived as damages from different things that you're helping people with, okay? So just be cognizant of that. And two, make sure you have your ducks in order, all right? Another lesson too here is that I'm not upset at anybody, all right? Like, again, this is small potatoes compared to what some people are facing, right? This is nothing. This is business. Okay, all of this is just business, all right? So when, as an entrepreneur, make sure you see this stuff as business. Even if you get into something with someone, it's business, okay? You should separate how you perceive things that's business and personal very differently. Don't take certain things personally. It is business, all right? So I see things very differently. My hope is that you watching this very short video, I'm at 18 minutes now. My hope is that you watching this kind of spark something in you to say, hey, I want to protect what it is that I'm creating and my ability to ensure that I don't open myself up to different things. Two, I need to make sure that I'm calculating how I'm supporting people so that I understand how they're perceiving the work that I'm doing. And three, like, you just have to make sure that you have certain things connected. This is one of the reasons why, like, corporations and businesses, when they start growing, you start to realize that things are starting to be a lot more, like, sort of fragile, because you do have to make sure that people are there to keep things in place. I know many of us solopreneurs, we think that, like, hey, we got our spreadsheet over here, we got this over there, we got this, you know, oh yeah, everything's good. These type of situations can test, it sort of stress tests what you have in place. It stress tests whether or not this is in order, whether or not that's protected, whether or not you have these ducks in a row. I am very fortunate in that I get my stress test was only like a little $15,000, and before that it was like a little $10,000 dispute. I'm fortunate that it's that. I'm very fortunate that it wasn't like, hey, Mike, my website was down and I average $1 million a month and I lost out on 1,000 leads based off of how long it's been down. So that equates to $180,000. Yeah, I want that. Like, I'm lucky that it wasn't that, okay? But even if it was that, when you have business insurance, you can have some level of protection so that you can remain covered. And also too, when you have business insurance, when certain things happen, they also have a legal team that can support you in remedying certain things in these type of disputes. So, like, you don't have to worry about having your person. Like, they have a database of attorneys that can support fighting that stuff, you know. So if you have any questions about some of the details of this, just hit me up. I'm an open book. Again, this is just one situation where I take a lesson and I try to communicate it with you guys. By the way, this was years ago. This was like, I did this project back in 2015. This case was like in like 2021. So this wasn't like 2021, 2022. Yeah, it wasn't like recent, right? I don't know why I thought of like, hey, like I should share this with you guys, but either way, hit me up if you have any questions. If anything, like building hundreds of websites and only getting sued once, I think those are good numbers. I should definitely, I should get an award for that. I think those are good numbers. I'm kidding. Peace.